Hey everybody, welcome to a super special episode of Back to School with Jobrani. Our friend, the show's friend, he's been on before, Dr. Firouz Naderi. He is former director of solar system exploration at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. He's been involved with landing on Mars in the past, so we have him here today to talk to us about the latest landing on Mars, Perseverance. The latest landing on Mars. He's going to give us his opinion, what happened, tell us how he was involved, and he's going to tell us in life, if you want to persevere at anything, you got to stay in the game. Don't be in a rush. Stick with it. He's also here to tell us no matter what field you're in, you should be political. Don't listen to people who tell you not to be political. And lastly, he's going to teach us how Tehran can get his name on the next rover landing on Mars. That and more right now on Back to School with Jobrani.
Jobrani, hey, Jobrani Maz, oh, Jobrani,
hey, Jobrani,
Mazzy, oh, Maz,
hey,
I got a podcast, oh,
back to school, yeah.
All right, guys, welcome. I'm excited. This is a very, very timely episode. First of all, I want to say hello to my sidekick, my man, Tehran. How are you?
I'm great. I can't wait for today's episode. This is the exciting stuff I love to talk about.
Listen, Tehran, you and I know as Iranian Americans, whenever any Iranian American does something out of the ordinary, where they're not a lawyer, doctor, engineer, we all get excited. And one of the superstars
when they're successful, it's not like CVS part-time cashier at Walgreens. Like,
bro,
that's not.
I get excited when I go to an ice cream store and the guy scooping ice cream is Persian. I get excited. I get excited. I go, you're scooping ice cream? And I go, what's going on? And you go, I like to do it. I go, that's fantastic. So I get excited just to see people doing something different. One of the superstars in our community is Dr. Firouz Naderi. He has been involved with NASA for years and years, and he retired a little while back. He's now been consulting. He's been public speaking. He's a human rights activist. He's a great human being. And so when I saw Perseverance land on Mars and I watched the videos, my mind was blown. And I'm not like a crazy space nut all the time, but you can't help but get emotional when you see this Perseverance landing on Mars and then all the engineers jumping up and down, and you realize, oh my God, so much work went into this, and they're crying and they're hugging each other. And I don't even know why I'm so excited, but I'm excited. And I said, we got to talk to Dr. Naderi about this. Did you watch the video of the landing, Tehran?
Yeah, of course. I was glued. Watched the video, well, the YouTube clips, and thought it was fascinating. I mean, I think Mars is the next frontier. I'm trying to get on that waiting list with Elon Musk on who gets to go there, because I don't want to be left out, and I don't know how it's going to work for marginalized communities, but I'm on my way.
Tehran, I swear to God, you will fit. If they say, you know, we've got a black guy, we've got a Mexican lady, we've got an Asian dude, we've got this, that. Then
I'm
you
like
go,
four of the list. I'm like one person, four boxes.
yeah, you gotta be able to look. I can fill all those. You need a black Iranian. I'm your guy,
I'm the guy.
bro. You know how much your Instagram following would increase if you did a Instagram live from Mars, bro.
Those are the things that we think about.
That's the move. Just go there just for your Instagram followers.
That's all I really want. What else?
Listen, man, I'm excited because this episode is so entertaining and so exciting and so interesting. I want everybody, first of all, to follow Dr. Naderi at Firouz, Firouz _ Naderi, Naderi. That's at Firouz _ Naderi on Twitter. And on Instagram, he's at Firouz _ Michael _ Naderi. He's got a lot of followers on both. He posts a lot about politics, but a lot about space programs, and he is just a sweetheart of a human being. So we're so excited to have him. Tehran, how do they find you?
I am Tehran all across the board and on Mars.
There you go. And you got me at Jobrani. Let us know how you feel about the show. Tell your friends. We're trying to increase our listenership. After you listen to this, pass it on to a friend. Say, you got to listen to this and have them subscribe. Let's build our audience here. Find us on Clubhouse. Find us in March at the Orlando Improv. find us in April. Now going to play Palm Springs. All these dates are going to be at mazjobrani.com. Live comedy is coming back, socially distanced, but it's coming back. And watch my special on Peacock. It's called Pandemic Warrior. I'm counting on you guys to watch it so the numbers can go up. So please watch that as well. It's free. You can download it, check it out. Without further ado, let's go back to school with Firouz Naderi on Back to School with Jobrani.
Back to school. Yeah.
Dr. Firouz Naderi, our friend of the shows. This is your second time on.
Yes, it is. Yeah, my favorite hosts.
Thank you for being with us, Tehran. Aren't you always happy to see Dr. Naderi, Tehran?
Dr. Naderi has been one of my favorite people for a very long time. Dr. Naderi has literally known me since I was a kid and has always dropped knowledge.
You know, you're loved, Dr. Naderi, and the first time you were on, we talked about your journey into becoming someone who helped led the mission to land the rover on Mars and with the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, JPL. And then when Perseverance landed just a week ago, we said there's only one person we can talk to. That's Dr. Firouz Naderi.
Yeah,
so thank you.
This would have been my sixth lander. And the first one, I wasn't actually near the control room to watch it in real time. I was in my living room on my couch. And nonetheless, I cry easily. So the tears start rolling as soon as we landed. So this would be the last Mars mission that I would have had anything whatsoever to do with. I'll tell you, my role in this one, a bit down the road. But yeah, it was very emotional.
It was emotional for all of us because there was more footage, there was more coverage. It's amazing. Like social media, they say, has covered everyone now with everything we do. Social media is now covering Mars as well.
Yeah. I mean, for the first time, we put cameras on everything. And I don't know whether you've seen some of the videos or not. They're just just the fact that it is coming to us not from Australia, but from Mars. I mean, that in itself just gives you goosebumps.
I get goosebumps when you say it, and I want everyone to listen to the rest of this interview. But then when it's done, I want you to Google NASA Perseverance. Look at the videos that come with it. Listen to the audio came back. Funny enough, I was listening to Stephen Colbert, who was very funny, because when you listen to the audio, it sounds like, he said, it sounds like a butt dial from Mars.
Yes, yeah.
So let's not lose track here. Let's start with the first question. This week's first question comes from my daughter, Mila, who, when I said we got Dr. Naderi back, she had a question for you. Here we go. Mila's 10 years old, and here's her question to Dr. Naderi.
Hi, Dr. Naderi. I have a question for you. Do you think that they'll ever find life on Mars?
Well, I think we have the right vehicle to give us that answer. Right, so this rover builds on the findings of all the previous rovers. Like if you go back 16 years ago to when I was running the program and we landed Spirit and Opportunity, the twin rovers, then we asked them a very specific question. We said, was there ever liquid water on Mars? Because if there is no liquid water on Mars, forget it, life couldn't have been formed. So the question, was it ever, like in the past, liquid water? It came back and said, yes, we have enough evidence to say that there was. So then the next rover that we sent, we asked a different question. Okay, we need water, but we need other stuff. Like you and I, who are sitting here, we're mostly made out of 6 elements. They're called biogenic elements. Is hydrogen and oxygen and nitrogen and phosphor and carbon and sulfur. He said, can you find these on Mars? And Curiosity, which we landed in 2012, has come back and said, yep, all of these elements are on Mars too. So now what we know is that the conditions could have been right for life to arise. But the conditions being right and life arising are 2 different things. So with this one, with Perseverance, we're asking you more direct questions. To say, do you find evidence of past life. So it is looking for microfossils. And so the question is, where do we send it? I mean, Mars is a big area. Where do we send it? So we have found a large lake, an ancient lake. It is on Jezero crater. It's like about 40 kilometers wide. And then we have also found an old ancient river that used to drain into this lake. And from Earth, you know, when rivers drain into lakes, right at the mouth where they go in, they form something that they call river delta. That's where the river will deposit all the stuff that's been carrying with it before the waters join. So we think that if there is anywhere where evidence of life is preserved, is in that river delta in Jezero crater. So that is where we have gone, and that is where Perseverance will start looking. And I will tell you as we go along exactly how it is looking to find out if we find evidence of life directly, not whether the conditions were right, but whether there was life.
That's amazing. It's like a crime scene investigation. This is CSI Mars. You've sent Perseverance up there and you're saying, find me the murder weapon, find me. I mean, that's amazing that you're doing this. Now, just to step back for a second.
But in your analogy, we're now looking for the smoking gun.
Looking for the smoking gun. I want to see.
Why is this important, though? Why is it so important to find if there was life on Mars? Unless it's in humanoid form or something very prevalent, what's the difference?
Tehran, that goes back to how life came about on Earth, right? So we know, I mean, if we go back, way back, I mean, to the origins, to the Big Bang, you know, you can trace expansion of the universe for most of the 13 billion years that we've been in existence. Physics tells you how a star happened, the galaxies happened, how the sun was formed, how the Earth was formed. We know pretty much with clarity all of that, right? So, but that's all chemistry. You're all talking about chemistry. You're not talking about biology. There is no biology. Then now let's come back to Earth. Earth was formed about 4 billion years ago, and we can trace 13 billion years ago to the formation of Earth. Now let's go from the current time backward and look at the biology. Now we have biology, now we have biology all over. So we start stepping backwards towards the beginning of Earth. So we can go back almost 4 billion years ago when we had only single cell biology on Earth, which, you know, as Darwin has predicted, eventually, you know, got more complicated and more complicated and eventually led to us, right? So biology started sometimes on Earth after formation of Earth. We don't know yet this transition from chemistry to biology. You had this chemical universe that explains everything, sun, Earth, Mars, everything else, galaxies and all. And we see the diversity of life. We know how it evolved. But if you go back to the gap between when we crossed over from chemistry to biology, that we don't know yet. So now I get to answer your question. The question is this step, chemistry to biology, is it something rare or it happens everywhere? I mean, it doesn't matter on Mars if you find another Tehran conducting a comedy show, right? It matters whether that little jump from chemistry to biology happened. And if it happened with a little micro cell, a bacteria, we knew that that bridge was, you know, that gap was bridged. You went from chemistry to biology. Now, if Mars would have retained its condition, chances are that one cell would have evolved like it evolved on Earth, you know, to end up with people like us. But that's not the most important. The most important is whether that jump happened. And if that jump happened from chemistry to biology, in right next door to us, right? Then imagine now you're talking about billions and trillions of other stars and planets and all of that. If it happened twice here in our neighborhood on Earth and on Mars, the chances that it must have happened all over the place goes up astronomically. And in many of these places, conditions could have prevailed so that the evolution that happened on Earth also happens all these other places.
That is deep, my friend. That is deep. And I'm curious, real quickly, how long did it take Perseverance to go from Earth to Mars? And I know, and also, if you know approximately, I believe the speed had to be fast at the start, but at the very end, it has to slow down a lot. Can you explain a little bit of the technicalities?
Yeah, so since we're not into the science phase yet, the most interesting is the question that you asked. How did we get there? And how did we pinpoint the landing? I want to give you an example, right? Suppose rather than going from Earth to Mars, we were going the other way, from Mars to Earth. And somebody would ask you, says, I'm going to Earth. And I say, okay, Earth is a big place. Where do you want to go? You want to go to Australia? You want to go to Belgium? You want to go to Shiraz, my home city? Where do you want to go? And they come back and says, you know what? Where I want to go, I want to go to the cross street of Wilshire and 23rd Street. There is a Trader's Joe there. That's where I want to go. So if they would have asked that question of me 16 years ago when we landed, I say, good luck. You know, we don't have that kind of precision, man. So I know you want to go to California. I can promise that I will land you somewhere between Los Angeles and Santa Barbara. That's the best I can do for you, right? Mm-hmm. And that was the technology that we had, you know, at that time. So with Perseverance, we still can land you at the intersection of Wilshire and 23rd, but we say, okay, we can land you in city of Santa Monica. How's that? Maybe within 5-kilometer radius of where you want to go. I know if we find a safe place, we'll land you there. So first of all, this is the precision of going from Earth to Mars and landing in a location that tight. Now, why is that important? There is always a debate between the scientists and the engineers. Scientists want to go where you can do exotic science. Engineers want to land where it is safe to land. And often these two are in conflict. The best places to do science might not be the safest place for you to land. Going back to my Trader Joe example, is that you're driving by Trader Joe and you all of a sudden see a parking spot. It's very tight. The car behind you and in front of you has not left much room. And to shoehorn your car into that little space depends on how good a driver you are. And then if you're not a very good driver, you give up, you go a few blocks down and find a place where there is no cars, you park and then walk the rest of the way. So as we have gotten more sophisticated, we have learned how to squeeze this rover into where the scientists want to go. And that's really saying quite a lot. I mean, it's, you ask me how far, it's 300 million miles.
Wow.
From Earth to landing was 300 million miles. It took 6.5 months to get there. Okay, so, you know, you're going pretty fast.
It took 6.5 months to get 300 million miles?
Yeah.
That's amazing because that's the same time it takes me to get to Burbank from West Hollywood. It's 6.5 months.
Yeah, sometimes 405 freeway is exactly like that.
Yeah, you gotta stop using Waze. You gotta start using call me up. I'll tell you how to get there.
I gotta start using NASA JPL.
NASA JPL, yeah.
Yeah, you may have to be beamed up a little bit and go above the cars, but we'll figure that out.
So it's 6 months to go 300 million miles.
Yeah.
And then at that last, the very end, it's got to slow down.
So, ironically, the most dangerous part of the trip is not this 300 million miles in 6.5 months. What normally kills most of the Mars missions is the last 7 minutes.
Wow.
We call it the thrilling and the terror of the last 7 minutes. So you approach Mars. I mean, there is no gate to Mars saying now you have arrived at Mars, but by convention, 125 kilometers off the surface of Mars, we have defined that by convention that we're now entering the Martian space. Okay, so you hit that 125 kilometers, you are going approximately, let me say, in miles would be about 12,000 miles per hour.
Wow.
And in kilometers is 20,000 kilometers per hour. And 6 or 7 minutes later, you're on the ground one way or the other. Either you landed safely or you'll make a ditch in the surface of Mars. So there is a really a choreographed, like literally 100 things have to happen at precise moment to slow you down so that you can soft land on Mars. And so first there's a heat shield, because I mean the atmosphere of Mars is very thin. It's like about 1% of the Earth. But nonetheless, when you're going with that speed, there's friction with even a thin atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
And that slows you down a bit, but it gets very hot in front of the vehicle. It gets to 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit.
Jesus.
And if there is not a heat shield, you're going to burn up. So after you sort of weather that heat and slow down, then you pop open a parachute, okay, a supersonic parachute. And that slows you down a little bit more until you get to the height of, maybe 20-story buildings. And then there is this exotic jetpack that is embracing the Perseverance. And that fires up and then starts lowering the Perseverance on a set of set of ropes all the way to the surface. And as soon as touchdown is confirmed, then the ropes are cut, this sky crane flies away and crashes, and we are on the ground. So that's the process.
Holy moly. That just, I mean, I was on the edge of my seat listening to this description, because there's so many things that got to come into play. And again, people should definitely Google NASA Perseverance, because the video is there now for us to see. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you, Dr. Naderi, you make me feel like I am underachieving, because as comedians, if we come up with a good joke, we're like, I wrote a joke.
Oh, it's just a different skill set. Come on, don't sell yourself short. And I would be terrorized if I had to write a joke and deliver it. So it's just a different skill set.
Well, what you do obviously is a lot more involved and more precise. And my question to you, because last time you were with us, you told us the experience of having sent rover on Mars, and you just explained that last 7 minutes is a big 7 minutes. Now, I believe the way you said before was once it gets to that last 7 minutes, you don't know what's happening because it takes time for the signal to come from Mars back to Earth. Now, this time when I was watching the video, it felt instantaneous. It felt like it landed and the lady goes, Perseverance has landed. Was that video from 7 minutes before and they were all waiting on the edge of their seats like you guys had to?
Yeah, so they are, as you said, it takes 10 minutes, 11 minutes. I think it was for Perseverance, was 11 minutes for the signal traveling at the speed of light to get from Mars to Earth, right? So everything that we hear has happened 11 minutes ago. So when we say we landed, we have landed 11 minutes ago. So normally when you're in a control room, when that 11 minutes occur, you know you're on the surface of Mars. You have either crashed or you have safe landed, but you're not going to find out for 11 minutes. So what the lady starts saying that this happened and that happened, it is all as the signal comes in. She's saying it in real time, but 11 minutes later. So that's how it plays out. And the video that you saw for the first time, of course, we put cameras all over, and you say you saw the video, which is remarkable. And so that video, in fact, didn't come until a couple of days later. We process the imagery and all of that. So the video that you have seen, we landed on Thursday, and I think the video was released this Monday.
And before I let Tehran ask a question on this, because I just want to follow up, because you told us last time that it had taken 4 years. I think it was about 4 years in the making from start to landing. And so that last 11 minutes when you were waiting for the rover to land, you were on eggshells, pins and needles. And once it landed, you said you just started crying.
Yep.
Because of all that work. And now this time we see this video of Miguel San Martin, who was the chief engineer for guidance, navigation, and control system for NASA Perseverance. There's a great video of him at home watching and then just losing himself. So describe to us what was going through his mind as you've experienced it as well.
So Miguel, a good friend of mine, an Argentinian American, one of the best control engineers in the world. He was instrumental in designing the sky crane, because at the beginning we thought, okay, so this rover is dangling at the end of ropes and probably like pendulum is going like this. It's going to be impossible to land it. He learned how to stabilize this thing so that you can land it. So anything that we do at JPL, somebody asked me on Instagram, the Iranian diaspora and back home, they have a inflated opinion of me. And so they said, so were you the mastermind behind Perseverance? I said, me? No, definitely not me. They said, well, then who? And I told them, with this mission and any other missions that we do, when they ask who is the mastermind, the answer is the team. There is no individual that conjures up this whole thing, right? It is the team, and you will not find anybody at NASA to proclaim himself as the father of Perseverance or this or that. Everybody always gives credence, the credit to the team, and it is. I regret to say that in our culture, we are so addicted to hero worship that we lose the sight that these incredible things are done by selfless individuals that are part of a team, that this magnificent things. So let me get back to Miguel. Miguel was part of a team that sort of conjured up this idea of sky crane, lowering this thing to the surface. And first, when we presented this thing to NASA, they said, you guys are crazy. We're not going to fund this. It's not going to happen. And this is the second time, by the way. We first did it with Curiosity in 2012. And, I was there in control room. And when it landed and the NASA chief was in the room, and so I was jumping down and yelling and howling and all of that. He said, what is this? I thought you guys said this is going to work 100% of the time. Why are you so surprised? And so Miguel, you saw that. And it is like that. It is really that much, that emotional, because you put in your heart and your life for many years. You said 4 years. No, it's a lot more than 4 years. So I stepped down from JPL 5 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. And I was well into the Perseverance project, and I'll tell you what part of it was done under me. And so more likely 8 years. Wow. Sometimes from conception to landing 10 years. It takes a long time. And part of it is to sell the mission. I mean, just because we come up with it, that doesn't mean NASA is going to fund it.
This show is about learning moments. That was a learning moment. No matter what field you're in, you have to have perseverance, unintended. You have to stick with it, and you have to have patience, because as you said, it took maybe even 8 years. And that's why when you see that moment, it's such a glorified moment. We see some of the best filmmakers, they take years and years to make a film. We see some of
Yeah.
the best doctors take years and years to get to where they are. So thank you for teaching us to have that patience.
Yeah, it is that. And it really, I think for me, if our community can learn to think in collective terms rather than individuals. I always recoil when some well-intended people, heap praise on me. And what they don't realize, I'm just a small cog in this engine. It is the team.
Well, it's also good that Donald Trump wasn't president, because then he would have
Yes.
taken credit. He would have said, I did it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I came up with it. Tehran, what's your question for Dr. Naderi?
I actually want to know, where do these names come from? Perseverance,
Yeah.
Spirit. Who comes up? Is there like a NASA JPL thesaurus of positive affirmations? You just
Tehran
inspiration.
Tehran would like you to name one after him, please.
That's where I'm getting at. Who's the king of the names, or is it the team? Do I have to talk to the team?
Yeah, good question. No, we always, have a contest, and it is for high school students and elementary students. Curiosity, all of the names. Perseverance was an 11-year-old boy who came up with it. And we haven't talked about the helicopter yet. And Ingenuity, which is the name of the helicopter, that was also came by. All of them are kids. And they have to write an essay for, I don't know, for Perseverance or for Ingenuity. There were 21,000 entries by school kids across the country. Now, I don't know who had the patience to read all of them, but about a couple of years before launch, the winner is announced.
Maybe that's why it took 8 years, Dr. Nadir. You guys were ready to go, but they had to read all
They
the
have
essays.
a name, yeah.
Like, we don't have a name.
Listen, you have to have your daughter next time submit a name.
I'm going to definitely do that. How often are you guys going to be doing this? Is it every couple years?
Okay, so that brings me back to Perseverance. This is the first of a series of 3 missions that, taken all together, is going to bring samples of Mars back to Earth. Okay, this whole collection of the 3 missions is called Mars Sample Return. And the thing is that we have landed on Mars, but we have never, ever gotten off the surface of Mars. It's been all one-way trips. We have not come back. Of course, humans have never gone. Even robotically, we have never come back. So what we have done with Perseverance is going to go to this river delta and elsewhere. We have given it 40 test tubes, which is sort of a bit thicker than your finger and a little bit longer than your finger. And it is like ultra, ultra clean, that there is no trace of anything from Earth on it. So we have sent these, and Perseverance will core into this delta and take samples of Mars and fill these tubes, 40 of them. And then over the course of the next couple of years, it will leave them on the surface of Mars. This is the first of the 3 missions.
And then Amazon will send a delivery guy to pick them up and bring them.
I have a story to tell you about Bezos and Amazon in a minute.
Yeah, go on.
So the second mission, we land a second lander, which in it has a little fetch rover, which will go and fetch these test tubes, bring it back. And on the lander, for the first time, we have a rocket that can launch things off the surface of Mars. And we put all these 40 test tubes in something about the size of a soccer ball. We fill it in that, and then this rocket will launch this thing and puts it in the orbit of Mars. So then this basketball will is there orbiting Mars. Then the third mission, we send a spacecraft to go to Mars and look in that vast empty nest, try to find this basketball, meet with it, capture it, then cocoon it in something that would say anything that touched Mars cannot be exposed because we cannot bring anything back from Mars and do what Trump says China did to us. So we have to make sure that what comes back, it is completely sanitized from anything that touched Mars. And then it would bring it back, and then we'll take the samples. And the reason we do that, even though we have given a lot of sophisticated instruments to Perseverance, they're still not a substitute for the huge laboratories that you find on Earth and thousands of scientists. So the samples in the hands of the scientists in the laboratories on Earth, can be, it can do wonders. So this is the first of the 3 missions to bring samples back.
Wow. Every time you describe this stuff, my mind is blown. I mean, how long is this process that the third, by when will we have the samples here?
You will be paying college tuition by the time that comes back. So your daughter is what, about 8?
She's 10 right now.
She's 10. Okay, she would be well into about 10 years. She would be probably a junior in college at the time.
That is crazy. So is Elon Musk is trying to get to the moon or to Mars?
So Elon, brilliant man, but even better than a genius technical mind, he's a master marketeer. He's been playing up, I'm going to go to Mars. I'm going to go to Mars now for, I don't know how many years. The first time he said, we're going to land in 2018. Of course, it didn't happen. Now I think his next deadline is 2024. Before I left NASA, I did a study with 2 other colleagues that we thought that NASA could go to Mars in early 2030s. And one of the stumbling things was money, right? I mean, when we went to the moon with Apollo, America was spending 6% of its GDP on space. And now we are spending less than 0.5%. And so again, going back, I know this was in the trust of Tehran's question, but another question that people ask is that, you asked me why we should get excited about a single cell. I answered that one. Another question that I always ask, oh God, we have this pandemic, we have economy, Texas doesn't have water and power, landing on Mars, what will it do for? No, it will not do anything for it. But I come back to a great civilization should spend 99.5% of all of its resources on all of that stuff, on economy, on education, on pandemic, on water and power, on global warming. 99.5% of our resources should go towards that. But 0.5% to explore and increase our knowledge. I just come back to Europeans 500 years ago. If they said all that we want is in Europe, why should we dare going on this ocean? At the end of it, we don't even know what it is. Our ship may just drop into nothingness. But they went.
But
And
that didn't really
America's-
work out. That didn't really work out for the people that were already there.
Yes.
Like that didn't work out,
It
for
depends.
people who were there.
It depends on perspective. Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, like 50 years from now when we're having Thanksgiving on Mars, the natives,
Yeah.
the natives
We'll
of
have
Mars.
we'll have a
Martians
different conversation.
And the delta of the river are going to be like, damn Earthlings.
Yeah, they never see that.
Exactly.
That's
So
funny.
let me go back to Elon and his competitor, Jeff Bezos. It is less known that Amazon and Jeff Bezos also is heavily into rockets and space and all of that. So everybody has heard of SpaceX, which is Elon's company.
Sure.
So Amazon started a little bit later and is going a little bit more methodically. And his company is called Blue Origin, right? And so he is also building rockets to go to the moon and all of that. So this brings me back to the helicopter.
What do they call it? They call it Mancopter or something?
Marscopter.
Marscopter. Okay.
Yeah. So about 7 years ago, when we started, we couldn't get NASA to fund it. At the time, my estimate for it, and it was being done in my directorate, it was, we thought we needed 40 million. To make a long story short, that, you know, our initial estimates are not exactly, once you're doing first of a kind, one of a kind of a thing, the helicopter cost 80 million now that it's completed.
Oof.
But 40 million was my
All
estimate.
in.
Well, if you think that's much, the Perseverance cost is 2.7 billion.
Is that with or without floor mats? You know, when you buy a car, that's my biggest pet peeve. You buy a car and then they'll be like,
Yeah,
yeah, did you want, you wanted the steering wheel? You're like, I thought it came with a steering wheel. But
no, this is
yeah.
the engine and the whole bed, and, you know,
Yeah.
the fog lights and all of that.
yeah. the
So
whole-
anyway, we wanted to do this thing, and NASA wouldn't give us money. First of all, they thought it's crazy. Mars doesn't have enough atmosphere. You're not going to get a lift to go up. We're not going to give you the money. So we started thinking, a bunch of us started brainstorming, and it was about time where Bezos wanted to deliver parcels using drones. And we thought, look, we go to Jeff. You see NASCARs, how NASCARs put all kind of stickers all
Yeah.
on it. So we go to Jeff and we say, look, if you give us $40 million, maybe NASA will let you put, you know, like your sticker next to this. And then you
Amazon.
come back, he says, if I can deliver on Mars, I can certainly, you know, go to Mars's house and drop a package. So I did what we do in startup companies. I did a pitch deck to go and pitch to Jeff. And you were debating, should we do, say, 40, maybe 40 is too much, maybe we should say 35. And so one of the guys came in and said, guys, I was looking at the stock market last night. I was checking Amazon stock, and between last night and today, Jeff Bezos made $1 billion in one night.
Wow.
So don't start saying whether we should ask for 40 or 3. So anyway, I sent a bunch of people, went to Jeff and pitched the Marscopter to him. And he was really intrigued, so much so that I said, I love to do it, but I have to give it to my company, which is Blue Origins. And this is so sexy that's going to detract them from what I want to do, which is build rockets to go to the moon. He says, I'm very much interested, but he turned us down.
Oh,
Eventually, we talked NASA into it, and, you know, we built this thing.
I mean, 40 million sounds like a great, I mean, talk about advertising.
That's a deal.
That's a deal. I'd put, you know, I listen, Firouz, if you came to me, I would have put at Maz Jobrani for my Instagram numbers to go up.
You would have mortgaged your house, right?
Mortgage my house. I would have sold my kids, my dogs.
Right. Yeah, again, you know, it puts this thing in perspective when we're talking about helicopter and a lot of money. And Elon with Tesla and Bezos, they make these kind of monies tenfold overnight.
So what's the job of the helicopter? What's it doing out there? Because you have Perseverance is the thing that's got wheels and it's going to go to that riverbank. Yeah. What's the helicopter going to do?
Okay, helicopter purely experimental. I think it's gonna. I was hoping at one time it would fly around Nowruz or Sizebedar so we can claim something, but I don't think it's gonna fly for another 60 days or so before everything is checked out. So just to show you can get lift, Mars has only 1% atmosphere, and this thing was so, you know, it's like about 2 kilograms, and the only way that can give it lift, I haven't checked, but the helicopters on Earth, the propellers going around like about 300 RPM. So we had to make this thing 3,000 RPM to just get enough lift to lift this thing and have it be stable. So what it's going to do is just to demonstrate that you can do it. But eventually, and if you can do it, we're going to put it to work. We're just not going to give it a pass and say, let's call it a day. But eventually, the idea is that you can do a regional reconnaissance and tell the rover where to go next. The neck on the rover can see maybe 20, 30 meters ahead. And if you're around the bend, doesn't know what's around the bend. But you can, on a daily basis, have these things take off, do reconnaissance, and come back and tell rover where to go. And then go places where rovers can't go, maybe edge of a cliff, right? So if you are a geology fanatic, you know that history of a planet like Grand Canyon. Like history of Grand Canyon is written in the layers of sediments that you see on the walls of Grand Canyon. So a geologist looking at the wall of Grand Canyon can tell you exactly what happened, 600,000 years ago. But we cannot send rovers on a wall. Then I think we can go and explore these kind of exotic areas with a helicopter.
Wow. I mean, the lesson I'm learning is if the human mind is incredible, you put your mind to it, you can do it. And the question I have for you, Dr. Firouz Naderi, did you want to do this since you were a child? Did you want to go to outer space since you were a kid? Or did you stumble upon it while you were pursuing something else?
No, I wanted to be a Mars or Terran and tell jokes, but
What?
no,
What?
I wanted to be an architect. I wanted to be an architect, and I started as an architect, and then I found that I don't have the talent for it. And then most of the people who work at JPL, they say they got hooked when they saw the moon landing and all of that. With me, it wasn't a epiphany like that. No, I mean, I went to Iran 3 years before revolution after I got my PhD, and shit happened there, and then I came back. I needed a job in my field, and you can either go for the weapon industry, which I didn't want to work. But if you wanted to work in space and technical field, but not build bombs and bombers and all of that, NASA was the choice. And I joined them, and then ended up staying 36 years.
Holy moly. Tehran, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, of course, I find it extremely interesting, simply because even as a kid, I actually wanted to be Dr. Firouz Naderi. I would have loved to have studied physics and space. That was my jam growing up. I do have a question. Are we more likely to find
Yes,
life?
to check my memory, you went to law school?
I did.
Oh, you did to law school, yeah.
Yeah.
And you and Moz, you dropped out of PhD in economy?
Dropped out of PhD in political science.
Political science, okay.
Yeah. It was that's one of those majors that I would have done anything with anyway. So here we are.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, Terrence, sorry.
Well, actually, Moz uses it all the time when he talks trash about Trump. He actually uses his degree all the time.
Yes.
And I tell you, you don't need a degree to talk trash about Trump. I can do that very easily.
Dr. Firouz Naderi, right there. There you go. I agree.
Yeah, sorry, Terrence, I interrupted you twice now.
No, it's okay, please. I just wanted to know, are we more likely to find life on Mars or on one of the moons of Jupiter or Saturn, like Europa or Enceladus, where there seems to be stronger evidence of current water?
Oh, that's my man, knows his solar system.
Geologic conditions.
So, Tehran, you see what's the photograph behind me, or it's something actually from Galileo, the movie, the spacecraft.
It's the
Galileo.
eye. It's the eye.
It's the eye. So what you see there is the hurricanes and storms on Mars, but on my shoulder, over my shoulder, you also see a moon. That is Europa.
Exactly.
That is Europa. And the two most promising place to find not past life, like we may find on Mars, but present life. It is either in Enceladus, which is a moon of Saturn, or Europa, which is a moon of Jupiter. So we need like a lot of money to go to Europa. We have started that study to land on Europa, but it's pretty expensive. And who knows, maybe 10 years later, just like Mars, NASA funds it, and 10 years from now, we land on Europa.
Have we been landing on other planets, and are there others that we like? Which ones have we gone to? Which ones have we not?
So solid planets where you can land and not sink into a body of gas are Mercury, the first four. Mercury, we have not
Venus,
done it.
Mars.
Venus, we have landed. I mean, Russians have landed. Earth, of course, and then Mars. Everything after us, they're all big gaseous bodies. So there is no place to land. You will just sink in. Their moons are solid. Some of their moons are solid. And we have landed something on a moon of Titan called, a moon of Saturn called Titan. But that's about it.
That's amazing. And who are we in a race with right now to win or whatever in Mars? Is China competing with us? Russia? Who are we competing with to be the American way of leading?
Okay, so maybe we wrap it up with this. I can tell you that this last week was just a huge traffic at Mars, because not only we went to Mars, so did the Dubai, the United Arab Emirates. I'll tell you a bit about that. And so did China. So first of all, United Arab Emirates, a lot of our folks turned their nose up to them. What the hell? They have a lot of money. They went and bought it, But they had a vision. Their ruler, this is the 50th year of independence. I think you have given shows in Dubai.
Yeah.
This is their 50th year of independence. And 7 years ago, he had a vision that on his 50th year, he wants to send something to Mars. He formed a space agency, started training people, not enough to build it, but to train and help with the STEM education of its people. And it was built at the University of Colorado, and it was launched by Japan. But nonetheless, I give them credit. They're as you must know, their population, Emiratis, is 1 million.
Yeah.
There's 10 million there, but Emiratis are only 1 million. Well, Iran is 80 million.
Yeah.
We're at least as rich. So let's praise them. Don't don't talk down to them because they bought their spacecraft. Anyway, they went and they put something around Mars. And then to your question, China has gone. They are around Mars now. They're carrying with themselves a rover, but they're not going to land it until May. They're going around trying to find a nice spot to land. And then around May, if they land successfully, they would become the second nation to land successfully. Russia did it, but it lasted only 30 seconds. So the only people to have landed on Mars successfully is US. And I think, as with anything else, economy and everything else, the force to reckon with is China. So I think next century, they're going to be our competitor in everything, including space.
Have we ruined Earth so much that we need to go to Mars? Is that what this rush for Mars really is? Is Earth just unsalvageable, and we're looking our sights to another country where if we take away some CO2, add some oxygen and nitrogen, maybe we can have an Earth-like atmosphere?
Well, look, a lot of people say, don't ruin Earth with the climate change and all of that. Why don't you fix it here? This is not giving up on Earth. This is not to say, let's write Earth off and try to find something else. They're totally independent endeavors. We should preserve Earth, which we're not doing a very good job of, and explore elsewhere. They're not competing with each other.
Dr. Naderi, you're so inspirational. Can I just ask 1 minute speed round questions, quick answers, okay? And then we're going to be done with you, okay?
All right.
So this is called Back to School with Dr. Naderi.
Back to school.
Okay, first question. Who's going to play you in the movie they make about you?
Moss.
Yes! That's
Good answer.
correct answer. Second question. In 2017, you accepted the Academy Award with Anusha Ansari on behalf of Asghar Farhadi. Did that give you the acting bite? Do you want? Were you bitten by the acting bug? I should say.
No, as you know, it was done to reject travel ban, and I think history has proved that's wrong. Right.
You're a beautiful man. I love your activism. Third question: did American scientists first look at you differently because you were Iranian early on in the game?
Been so lucky, not a single incident in my 36-year career in NASA.
That's because everybody's Iranian or brown. Everybody's Iranian or Indian.
No. The answer to you is never, ever.
That's beautiful.
Maybe
that means
I lived in a bubble. Let's put it that way.
Well, scientists are good people. Two more questions for you. First question was, hold on one second, real quickly. Oh, what the hell is Space Force?
Some crazy man's dream. We have always thought that we should keep space demilitarized, but our 45th president, along with other brilliant ideas that he had, created this thing.
The last question, are you happy Trump is gone?
Ecstatic.
Yes, me
That's
too.
a question.
Me too. That's a great question. Tehran, what did you learn on this episode?
I learned that I need to start writing an essay in the handwriting of an 11-year-old boy to name the next rocket ship Tehran.
And I learned that people, you got to persevere. Don't give up. Dr. Naderi says it takes at least 8 years to go from start to finish to get to Mars. So,
hey guys, we will do that, and you two guys keep us laughing and keep it light.
We're going to do shows on Mars. We're going to do shows on Mars.
We're going to do shows on Mars. Dr. Naderi, I want to thank you for being on. I want people to follow Dr. Naderi at Firouz_Naderi on Twitter, at Firouz_Michael_Naderi on Instagram. And I want to especially thank you, Dr. Naderi, for beyond being the scientist that you are, beyond being the engineer that you are, being the human rights activist that you are. That puts you at another level. So thank you for doing.
I'm sure you guys get it too. And people tell us, don't talk about political scientists. That's not your field. And I keep telling everyone that politics is everyone's field. And if you're not involved, then, shame on you.
I love you. I love you. And that's a learning moment. Even at the end, he gives us a learning moment. Dr. Naderi, thank you for being on Back to School with Jobrani.
Good talking to you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Back to school. Yeah.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Back to School with Jobrani. We hope you're enjoying it. We hope you're having fun. And we hope you're learning something. So make sure to let your friends know. Share it on iTunes. Share the clips from YouTube. Just get it out there. However you're listening, let your friends know to tune in to Back to School with Jobrani.
Back to school.